We begin this special episode with how the NYPD keeps us safe during what they call the special event season. We're talking about major events in the fall and winter that are prime targets for would-be terrorists. Take a look.
If you don't understand what the threat is, you can't get anything else right after that.
Chief James Waters is a man on a mission to get it right. This dedicated leader allowed me into the Counterterrorism Bureau for an exclusive one-on-one interview. We talked about how the NYPD deals with constantly changing unknown threats to public safety and our way of life.
Homegrown violent extremists, someone who is under the radar or off the radar completely in their mother's basement, getting radicalized on the internet rather than traveling to a foreign country and receiving training.
The annual special events season gets extra attention. It starts with the U.S. Open and includes the UN General Assembly, the Halloween Parade, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, the Rockefeller Center tree lighting, and ends when the ball drops on New Year's Eve and everyone goes home.
Our security is described in concentric circles, if you will, where we start from the event and we build out from there.
He describes their core strategy as multi-layered: planning, training, a visible presence of NYPD officers, specialized units, and the latest technology. Chief Waters takes us to one of the harbor unit's new counterterrorism boats.
Hi guys, how's it going?
Hey, no focus, NYPD CT3.
This state-of-the-art counterterrorism boat is an example of the type of equipment that helps the NYPD keep the city safe.
The radiation detection systems within the hull of the boat gives us a 360-degree radius of radiation detection.
We stop by the United Nations right on the water. During the 2 weeks of the General Assembly, more than 200 world leaders are in the city. The NYPD coordinates closely with the Secret Service, the Coast Guard, and other federal partners. When the UN General Assembly is in town, what are your concerns here?
So our concerns would be some type of an attack by way of water. So this area of the East River is restricted to boat traffic, and we take a number of precautions with our NYPD scuba team.
The focus and their security plan is different at the U.S. Open. It takes place over a vast area, accessible by train and by vehicle from several different highways. Deputy Chief Joseph Gallucci shows me what they're doing to harden the 1 mile perimeter.
We'll check undercarriages of cameras, we'll check the interiors of the cameras, we'll do a quick interview with the driver.
Gallucci says the growing use by terrorists of vehicles as weapons of mass destruction, as we saw in the 2017 West Side Highway attack, make the precautions essential, and it can all be moved at a moment's notice if necessary.
We continuously monitor the threat stream. Active shooters, suicide bombers, and in particular vehicle ramming attacks.
I'm in what they call the JOC, the Joint Operations Center. It's where specially trained officers monitor what's happening 24/7. The technology here allows eyes on the ground and in the air. The green dots on this screen show every flight currently in New York airspace. Another lists suspicious packages. Yet another shows areas where ShotSpotter can identify shots fired so officers can be sent out even before they get a 911 call. There are live video feeds, too, from all across the city. Chief Waters tells me for him and his officers, it's all about saving lives.
The human emotion of, my heart breaks for, the victims and their families, and that's something that drives us.
We've covered the opioid epidemic extensively and how it's devastating some communities. It's gotten so bad and the situation is so serious, the NYPD now has its own overdose squad. We hit the streets with the team. With overdose deaths on the rise, especially in the Bronx, there were 495 in 2017, the NYPD launched the Drug Overdose Squad around a new first responder concept: aggressive investigations and prosecutions of dealers with outreach support for users who may be witnesses.
If we can help somebody out that's struggling and say, you know what, the police came and spoke to me and it wasn't intimidating situation. We're taking the stigma away from it.
They typically work backwards from the scene. After having the drugs analyzed, if they can prove it caused a death and came from a specific dealer, they have the law on their side and can make arrests for the fatal overdoses.
We get them in and we're able to use through the multitude of department databases, put together maps. And we can almost do computer mapping through the system where we can say there's a cluster here, there's a commonality of the type of heroin that we're seeing.
The squad's methods have already proven effective. They took us to West 183rd Street and Jerome Avenue, which was an open-air drug market until last June. In Operation Breaking Bad, Bronx Narcotics and other NYPD officers, along with the FBI, busted 18 people who allegedly ran a wholesale and retail heroin trafficking ring connected with many overdoses. Sergeant Burkhart says the 5 to 7 block stretch of West 183rd Street is a lot cleaner now. But before the arrest, the dealers forced store owners to allow them to deal in front of their businesses.
But it was also the epicenter of one of our major areas where we suffered the most overdoses, both fatal and non-fatal.
The heavy dealing was intimidating to many residents and a big concern for families with small children. As we walked the neighborhood, we heard a lot from residents like this mother.
It's been really good because you see less people that are using and less hanging out.
You need an ambulance, bro?
In the Mott Haven section of the Bronx, we see that being connected to the community is part of their strategy and has special meaning for 2 of the officers who have roots here.
I grew up in the Bronx, and I always knew as a child that I always wanted to become a police officer and combat the drug abuse here.
There has been a lot of positive progression from growing up, but we still, as you can see, battle it every day.
Evidence of that battle is everywhere, like bottle-cap dope cookers and used syringes. Detective Joseph Ierna shows us a used bag of heroin right near a kid's ball field. Drug paraphernalia is easy to find, even stuck in a park bench. An awful situation these officers are determined to change for the kids.
What's happening here is that they always do like some stuff, like they always inject themselves.
He's kicking it down the drain. Huh? He's kicking it down the drain.
The investigations by the Bronx Overdose Squad take time and painstaking attention to detail, like murder cases, only more complicated. While the challenge is overwhelming, they know every dealer and every kilo they take off the streets is saving lives.
To get that charge, to get that conspiracy causing the death, we need more than just the last person they were with. We need more than just witnesses. We need a whole case. We need an entire case to get that charge.
Up next, Lisa puts on a body camera.
So you want to wear it center?
Okay.
For an intense training session.
Are you guys okay? You okay in here?
Then, an eye-opening visit to the crime lab.
Does that mean we're leaving our DNA pretty much everywhere we go?
And later, wife, mother, sniper.
Police body cameras. The technology is supposed to provide a first-hand account of all interactions with the public. I put on a body camera myself to see just how they really work.
Hey, how you doing, sir? Hey, are you guys okay?
No, stop! Put that down! Put that down!
Police department. Today's the only day that they're gonna come, and if I don't get them today, then they're gonna be gone. And we're gonna get help from them.
Where do you get your haircut? It's so pretty.
Man, you gotta step back.
Those are video clips from the body cameras worn by the sergeants who allow me to participate in their scenario training. The body camera itself is about the size of a pack of cigarettes and is clipped on securely to the uniform. So far, 860 officers have been trained with them, says Assistant Chief Matthew Pontillo.
The investigative value is huge. It does provide that contemporaneous record of what occurred and what statements were made, and potentially evidence that was recovered at the scene can now all be captured on video.
The NYPD says it received more than 155,000 911 calls about emotionally disturbed people in 2016. That's more than 400 a day. With a high volume of incidents and under federal court-ordered reforms, the department moved to interactive scenario training.
With this training in particular, we've layered in a whole number of other elements beyond typical police training. So here we utilize professional improvisation actors to help us to portray individuals with mental illness and actually role play exactly what it is we're looking to accomplish.
So you want to wear it center?
Okay.
Optimum view, so we'll just clip it on your jacket. And There you go, it should be good.
The training instructors here tell me that to turn the body camera on, all you have to do is flip the switch down, and now the camera is recording. And then to turn it off, all it requires is that. Right now, the priority is to train officers and supervisors who work the 3 to 11 night shift when most incidents happen. On actual patrol, routine calls are not recorded.
Any incident that escalates or any incident that is of an investigatory or enforcement nature, we certainly want to record those incidents.
Okay, so this scenario is going to come over as a 1052 dispute from an anonymous caller. It's going to be in an apartment building.
It's very common. A family member or roommate calls 911 because someone in the household is acting erratically or dangerously. A cornerstone of the training is de-escalation.
Like my pea soup is inside of my brain.
In this scenario, a man calls for help for his brother who suffers from schizophrenia and is fighting with him. The responding officers separate the two, then we try to calm him down. It's a talk down instead of a takedown. It'd be better if we just kind of stay here for a minute. After the situation is resolved, there's a debrief.
At that point, you're able to get voluntary compliance, you call for the bus, and you walk them out without any incident. James, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, I think you guys did really well. I like that you separated the two brothers because it seemed like they were kind of escalating each other, even asking the other one to wait outside. It was very clear from the beginning that you were, here to help.
This training is taking place inside the new police academy in College Point. In the next scenario, at a movie-like set of a city street, a couple argues in front of the bank where the man works.
Listen to me.
That's just great. I came here to surprise you, to come to dinner with...
We are not together. We never...
What are you talking about?
It's a situation that calls for turning on my body camera, but I get so wrapped up in what's going on, I neglect to do that. Luckily, the two officers with me have theirs operating.
This is really ridiculous. You're going to just let him talk about
No,
me
they're just let me know what's going on.
Hold on a second. So what happened? What are you so upset about? The clinician tells me that the scenarios help the officers avoid emotional contagion, where a situation gets amped up instead of calmed down.
The key here and what we talk with the officers about is having awareness about that. Being aware of your own emotions and what are you bringing to the situation.
After their shift, the officers dock their body cameras so the video can be downloaded and put on a central server.
In the event they make an arrest, they have to share the video with the DA. And the DAs all have accounts, so we can share videos directly within the video management system, so I don't have to burn discs and things like that.
Up next, inside the crime lab.
So if that was sweat, saliva.
For a DNA revolution.
For years, DNA has been used to solve crimes and free the wrongly accused. But now we're seeing just how far that technology has come. I went inside the city's DNA crime lab for this exclusive report. In this dry, sterile facility with purified air pumped in, the scientists handle more than 14,000 cases a year. Everything from muggings to murders to mass casualty tragedies.
We're now entering the DNA crime lab where evidence is examined and DNA profiles are generated.
And what's going on right here?
Here we have one of our DNA scientists is analyzing samples and preparing them for DNA extraction.
The extraction and separation is done by robots using specialized equipment. How many different types of DNA are there?
DNA is the same in every cell of your body, so each human has a unique DNA profile. No other person on the planet has this DNA profile with the exception of an identical twin.
New technological advancements give the scientists the ability to extract DNA from fewer and fewer cells, even with no body fluids. It's called touch DNA. Does that mean we're leaving our DNA pretty much everywhere we go?
Yes, you abandon your DNA every time you touch something with your... That's why we're wearing gloves today, as to not leave our DNA behind, which would then could possibly become a part of that evidence.
Samples can come from clothing or objects connected with the crime. All evidence collection follows strict legal protocols. We see these evidence bags at crime scenes, detectives and NYPD officers collecting them. What exactly goes into this?
So this would be evidence collected from the crime scene, and this will allow its safe transport to the DNA crime lab. So evidence would go in, sealed, chain of custody, delivered to us. Our job then is to generate DNA profiles from any samples that may be on it.
Kupferschmidt tells me DNA, including touch DNA, has been a game changer in solving sexual assaults.
The real power of DNA profiling comes from comparing to known samples. So for a particular criminal investigation, we can make comparisons to the victim of the crime, to suspects, to exclusionary samples. Other people, their DNA may have been a part of it, but not a part of the crime.
DNA can be destroyed by heat, humidity, and other environmental factors. Kupferschmidt says 9/11 presented an unprecedented challenge that drove him and his team beyond the latest technology and became a personal mission to find answers for grieving families.
The 2,753 victims of the World Trade Center attack, there were over 22,000 remains recovered, and many were very badly degraded or at a point where the fire or the jet fuel or the elements had reached a point that very little DNA was left.
He says at the other extreme is the DNA we leave behind everywhere all day long, on a discarded coffee cup, on a doorknob we grab, on everything and everyone we lightly touch. It's enough now to generate an unmistakable DNA profile.
Our job is to provide the information, provide the DNA from these samples, no matter what kind of case it is. Our job isn't to guilty or innocent. Our job is, these are the results, it's science, these are the correct results.
Up next, meet the only woman on the NYPD sniper team.
It's like a big boys' playground, you know, and I wanted to play in it.
You know what they say. Sometimes the best man for the job is a woman, and there's only one woman on the NYPD's counter sniper team. I caught up with her for this exclusive one-on-one.
What's the location? Okay, Sergeant, will do.
Detective Tina Guerrero usually starts her workday at 11 p.m. so she can have the days with her children. But as an NYPD counter sniper, she's sometimes on the other side of the clock in broad daylight for target practice. I sat down for an exclusive interview with this 5'1" married mother of 3 in the break room of the NYPD's ESU Truck 10 base in Queens. Guerrero is the NYPD's only female counter sniper and insists to me her highly dangerous job in the emergency service unit is fulfilling and even fun.
Being the lead bunker on a search warrant, you know, the first one being able to go through the doors, to me is just exciting, you know. You don't know what that unknown is and what's going to happen.
Soon after the birth of her first child at 24, Detective Guerrero became a police officer. She worked undercover in Vice, but wanted the challenge of being in the prestigious ESU, which handles everything from hostage situations and people pinned in cars to presidential details. She felt it was a greater opportunity to protect the public, and she didn't let her gender or size stop her.
It's like a big boys' playground, you know, and I wanted to play in it. I was welcomed with open arms. I've always been treated with the utmost respect.
Part of the reason she gets respect is because she carries her own gear. No easy feat when the tactical vest alone is about 50 pounds, and there's all kinds of other gear to carry depending on the emergency.
Oh my gosh. I'm so used to doing it that you know, it's like a normal thing for me.
For the members of the NYPD's counter sniper team, continual training is a must. That's why they're here at the Rodman's Neck firing range.
In the beginning, I was a little intimidated by it. You know, I never really shot a precision rifle before. And hearing the term counter sniper, you know, you looked at, you know, to a little bit of a higher level. And it's a big responsibility.
She shows me the range and tells me she's never had to use her Remington 700 M24 rifle or service weapon in the line of duty, but she must be prepared.
Tina got the eye.
She sure did. Detective Guerrero hit a 1-inch square from 100 yards away.
It could be an active shooter outside. Sometimes we could be on a rooftop, which changes everything also. Now we're doing, it could be a high angle shot.
Back at the base, I wonder how she goes from cleaning a high-powered rifle to making school lunches.
You just try to leave that here and go home, and I just take this hat off and go home, put my other hat on that says Mom, and you know, and leave it at that.
She says the support of her husband, Detective Lennon Guerrero, an ESU officer in another command, helps, and so does the support of the men in her unit.
There's always someone that's willing to teach you something, always somebody there to answer questions for you. As long as you're willing to do the job here and go out there and work, you weren't going to have any problems.
She is truly an amazing woman. That's it for this special episode of Street Soldiers. I'm Lisa Evers. Remember, use your mind. It's your best weapon. I hope it's your only weapon. And let's push for peace.